You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, writer for USA Today for various SEC-related things, but on this podcast specifically, we take a dive into all things Kentucky athletics. And today's episode, we are going to be just giving an instant reaction to Kentucky's massive win over the Tennessee Volunteers. 107-79 was the final score. And let's just go ahead and jump into it. Who was expecting this? Who was expecting Kentucky to be able to put up 107 points against what statistically is the nation's second best defense, or at least in terms of defensive efficiency? The Volunteers rank second in that category. 107 points is the most Kentucky has scored against Tennessee in this series, and this series is over 100 years old. Just give you an idea of what happened on Saturday. Let's just go over some of the stats. Let's talk about what happened, because this was just blew me away. I did not expect this to happen at all. I thought this was going to be a very competitive game. TyTy Washington was somebody that we cited as a focal point in this matchup. We thought he was going to be really important in case Sahvir Wheeler did not play. Give you an update, Sahvir Wheeler did play, and he played very, very well, started in this game. But TyTy Washington, the leading scorer in this matchup, 28 points on the day, 10 of 13 from the floor, was 6 of 6 from the free throw line, had 5 assists, 3 steals to go along with those numbers. And Sean Vinzel of Hoops Insight, on Friday, we broke down this game, and we both came away with the conclusion that if we had to pick an MVP for this game, it would be TyTy Washington, even if Sahvir Wheeler did play, because of his ability to not just distribute the basketball as a potential primary point guard, but also his ability to score and to create in space by himself. That was very, very important in this game. TyTy scoring at all 3 different levels. But from the three-point line, he had a couple of threes, he had a couple of mid-range jumpers, and then he had a couple, or quite a few actually, layups. And we talked about TyTy not being as good of a transition guard as Wheeler was, right? We thought that, or we talk about how we thought Wheeler was more of a downhill type of guy, and he really thrived whenever the offense was going quickly and the pace was up and the tempo was up. I got to say, I think overall, regardless of who was running the point today, I was really pleased and impressed with what I saw out of the guard play. And speaking of the other guard, that was the primary handler of the ball. Sahvir Wheeler was out for a couple of games with a neck injury. He played in this matchup. He had 21 points, was 8 of 10 from the floor, 1 of 2 from 3, knocked down all 4 of his free throws, had 8 assists and a couple of steals to go along with those numbers. Fantastic guard play from the Wildcats in this matchup. And when we broke it down on Friday, we said that was going to be very, very important. Kentucky taking care of the basketball, these 2 guards distributing well, making sound decisions. And this is a Tennessee team, and I have my notes over here actually. This is a Tennessee team that puts up just stupid numbers in terms of steals per game. If I could actually find the notes here. But this was a Volunteers team that can really turn you over. And we talked about that on Friday with Sean. 18.4 turnovers per game, which is 8th nationally. The Vols are 2nd nationally in steal percentage. And you may sit here and wonder, well, what did the Vols do in this game? Well, they only picked up 5 steals in this matchup, and they could only turn over Kentucky 12 times. And that, I think, is probably the most important statistic of this game. You don't often see a team halfway through the year averaging so highly in such a metric as steal percentage or turnovers forced per game. You don't often see them just collapse in the way that the Volunteers did. It was odd in a way. And honestly, what are you going to do when a team is just shooting and distributing and running as well as Kentucky was? Let's get into the percentages, shall we? So at the end of the day, Kentucky finished the game shooting 67.9%. Now, I'm no mathematician, but I watch a little bit of college basketball, and I'm here to tell you that that number is fantastic. If you look at the first half totals, however, Kentucky was shooting 78.6% in the first half and 66.7% from three. Again, not a mathematician. The math department here at Locked On Kentucky takes care of all the numbers for me. That is absolutely phenomenal. To shoot over 60% both from the floor and from three, Kentucky shot 61%, and 95.2% from the free throw line. I don't want to say that this team is peaking because I don't think they are. I hope they're not. But we just got to witness an offense drop 107 points on one of the nation's best defenses. I think any doubters after the Notre Dame game have been silenced. Any doubters about this team's resiliency and their ability to play up to their competition because their strength of schedule was perceived as weak. It was incredibly weak. But now we're starting to get into the thick of things. And this team is starting to gel a little bit, and they're building chemistry, and all the things are coming together. And the best part about this win is that Oscar Tshiebwe was essentially a non-factor. He had 9 points and 12 rebounds, and you may say those are good numbers for a center or a forward on a given day. Not for Tshiebwe, who's averaging 17 points a game and 15 and a half rebounds per contest. He was essentially a non-factor in a game where Kentucky scored 107 points. That is why I think that this team has not hit its peak. Because this team will be at its peak whenever every single scorer is making their mark on the offense. And obviously 9 points is for Tshiebwe nothing to write home about, but it's still good. It's not bad. But this team will collectively peak whenever it gets every single starter to contribute in some way, shape, or form. Speaking of starters that contributed, Kellen Grady, who I have said is going to just shoot himself out of this slump that he's been in. He had 16 points, 5 of 8 from the floor, 4 of 7 from 3. There you go. He was phenomenal in transition, knocking down shots. Every single time I thought there's no way Kentucky's going to be able to pour it on here. Boom. Kellen Grady 3. Boom. Sahvir Wheeler, who was shooting 17% from 3. It was just phenomenal. The ball was going in the hole. The team was hot, and Tennessee had nothing to answer for it. I will say, though, the Vols almost scored 80 points, and they still lost by 27, or 28, excuse me. That's shocking. And this Volunteers offense, if we're going to criticize something, this team is not known as an offense this team is not known to have an offense that is elite. And for them to go on the road and score almost 80 against Kentucky is great. But again, they lost by 28. If we're going to criticize something, it's the fact that Kentucky let them score that much. But at the same time, if you yourself are scoring almost at will, then I think the defensive intensity is probably going to slack off a bit. So I'm not surprised that the Vols were able to put up as many points as they did. And I don't expect this to be a trend moving forward. I'm actually kind of like, who cares? Just go over some other metrics here that the Volunteers had before entering this contest. They were giving up 62.4 points per game. Again, they were second in defensive efficiency nationally. They were third in the SEC in steals per game, seventh in blocks, and they forced over 18 turnovers per contest. And then a stat we shared on yesterday's show, Tennessee has played 7 teams that have an offensive efficiency in the top 100. Those teams, on average, scored 68.4 points per game against the Volunteers. Kentucky is an exception. So I think at the end of the day, I think you have to ask 2 questions. The first is, for me, did Kentucky do what I think they will do in future games to win? Did they check the boxes? Did they check off the parameters that I've set? There's 4. If you've not listened to the show before, I'll give them to you right here. There are 4 parameters that I've set around Wildcat wins in the SEC. If they're going to win, specifically on the road, they need to do these 4 things. They need to shoot the ball well. Well, they shot almost 70%, so we're pretty good there. Have decent shot selection. If you're shooting at the rate that Kentucky was, there was some type of solid shot selection, especially considering that Tennessee is one of the best defenses in the country. You have to play well in transition, both offensively and defensively. There was at one point in this game, talking about transition buckets, where, according to ESPN, Kentucky had 27 fast break points. And if you don't watch basketball, that's very good. And Tennessee had 0. So playing in transition is, check that box right off. And then finally, protect the rim. And look, you don't have to hit all 4 of these parameters. I've discussed that before on the show, but you better hit 3 of the 4, or else you're probably gonna struggle. And protect the rim, not necessarily there for the Wildcats. Again, the Volunteers shooting over 50% from the floor. But they didn't need to do that in this game because they shot lights out. And so I guess that's an exception to the parameters, but also at the same time, for a team to score 107 points is kind of an exception. So I'm willing to just kind of to discard that final one. If you listen to the show on Friday, my final score prediction was Kentucky 76, Tennessee 65. I thought this was going to be a low-scoring affair, and I was sadly mistaken. So that's the first question we need to ask. Did Kentucky check the boxes to win? The second question I think we need to be asking right now is, who's the best team in the SEC? Is it Kentucky? Is it Auburn? Is it LSU? It's one of those 3, at least I feel like it is. So which one is it? At the time of this recording, LSU is in a dogfight with Arkansas. And I think that LSU is going to have a phenomenal season. We'll have to see how that game turns out, though. Auburn has not played Ole Miss. That game is later on tonight. We're recording this on Saturday. And as we speak, LSU is up by 2 with 12 minutes left against Arkansas. Kentucky and Auburn face off next Saturday in what could be the biggest game of the year up until this point. Because Auburn at that point, at the worst, is going to be second in the nation. Kentucky should be a top 15 team. So this is going to get interesting here over the next couple of weeks. Who's the best team in the SEC? It's one of the 3. I think we're going to find out. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Just an instant reaction to this game. Just really surprised with the way that this matchup turned out. Before you go, I want to tell you about our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this holiday season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football continues its march through the pro football playoffs. BetOnline remains your number 1 spot for all the sports action this season. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Today's episode is also brought to you by NetSuite. All right, guys, picture this. This is it, the putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours. But on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility because you're still relying on spreadsheets and outdated finance software? To see the full picture, you need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the number 1 cloud financial system to power your growth. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR, planning, budgeting, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow, and it's all in one place. With NetSuite, you can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of your competition. Over 28,000 businesses already use NetSuite, and for the new year, NetSuite has a new financing program for those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/locked. Head to netsuite.com/locked for this special one-of-a-kind financing offer on the number 1 financial system for growing businesses. Again, that's netsuite.com/locked. Really appreciate you guys hanging out for this instant reaction. If you would do so, please subscribe to the YouTube channel and you can get notified whenever the next episode of Locked On Kentucky comes out. On Monday's episode, we're going to have a complete breakdown of this game. We're going to talk about what happened in the first and second half. We're going to take a deeper dive into some of the statistics and give just kind of our overall thoughts as Kentucky marches on through conference play. If you would also make sure to leave a review on either Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening, I would really appreciate that. And if you have any questions about this matchup or you have any questions about the basketball team, You can follow us on Twitter at LockedOnUK. You can tag me. You can ask me a question. You can also follow the show on Instagram at Kentucky Podcast. Ask me a question. At some point in the future, I'm going to do some type of Twitter Tuesday or something like that where I just have you guys ask as many questions as you want. I'll answer them for the entire show. So yeah, that's going to do it. Again, you can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK. Make sure you follow us there. We'll be putting out a lot of different content in the future. You can follow us on Instagram at Kentucky Podcast. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_. Open to any questions, any comments, any concerns. I will see you all on Monday. Have a good day, everyone, and God bless.